Hi everyone, welcome back. I'm your host, Dr. Carey Heller. Today, we're going to talk about planning and using the idea of block planning to increase efficiency and improve your productivity. The idea of block planning may have different names or ideas based on how you're doing it. The way that I'm defining the idea of what I call block planning is basically pick the main categories of things that you have to do throughout the day. And essentially, each category of thing would have its own block of time. Well, everyone's job may be slightly different in terms of what the blocks might look like. A few common ones for a lot of types of jobs might be things like an admin category for things responding to emails, direct work on different projects or categories of projects, and networking. So those would be three specific blocks. And what you would do is schedule time throughout the day to work on those different blocks, or in some cases throughout the week if there's stuff that you don't need to do every day. In terms of how I use block planning in my own day-to-day life, what I do, I would view sort of block planning for me as the categories of direct therapy or coaching clients, testing, report writing, admin tasks, marketing, working out, and creative ventures, such as writing articles and doing podcasts like these. What I do is I have specific times that I typically reserve for these items. Obviously, it's hard to stick to all of these all the time, especially when things come up that are pressing. I would probably say that things like marketing, creative ventures, and to a lesser degree working out are things that sometimes get rescheduled. Whereas most of the other things, I tend to be more rigid in those because those obviously as part of my job are certainly are more important than most of the those other things. But it's also, those are the things where if I start, scheduling people at all hours, that's going to wreak havoc on not just my actual schedule and ability to follow through on stuff, but probably my mental health, my fatigue, and probably frustration. So it's important to sort of have some boundaries when you have the ability to, in terms of scheduling stuff, knowing what works for you. But for some stuff that really isn't as important or as always as necessary, figuring out what are the things that you can sort of shift around when you have to. For those of you listening that have a job that involves traveling around a lot during the day, a lot of these same principles can often work. I think the difference is that you may have certain days where you're constantly on the go versus maybe having more admin time either later in the day or in the morning at whatever time of day, or on certain days you're not traveling around as much. But also maybe even thinking about building admin time in between appointments or meetings. So if you schedule them, try to schedule an extra, maybe let's say 15-30 minutes, so you're likely to arrive, have time to get settled, and then maybe you can use that extra time to respond to emails or return phone calls, do whatever you need to do. So this way you don't have a million emails or phone calls to return when you get back to the office or wherever you're working. Aside from identifying the specific blocks that you want to use to organize your day, one of the most crucial things to this whole process is to actually write out your schedule. So whether you block out specific times for items and put that in your calendar, whether you write it out on a day-to-day schedule and then schedule individual appointments or tasks in a calendar or a task list, it's really up to you how you do it. But I think all of it's really up to you how you do it. But really the idea is you have to have this, or I would highly recommend that you have it written down in some way. Because if you don't have any sort of framework that you can use to rely on, it's going to be really hard to stick to your own block planning schedule in order to increase your efficiency and productivity. Another thought when you're thinking about how to pick blocks of time for different tasks is to think about when are you going to be most functional to do certain things. So if you are really tired at 8 or 9 o'clock at night and it's going to take you twice as long to respond to an email, maybe it's better to put more time earlier in the day to respond to emails. Or maybe there's certain tasks that you are excited to do and could do it at all hours, or not that you should really do it at all hours. It's important to get sleep. And I highly recommend treating sleep kind of like it's its own appointment, something you have to show up to and hopefully be punctual for. But anyway, or like let's say you do social media or something for a job. If that's something that you really enjoy, maybe that's something to do later in the day when you're really tired, or first thing in the morning if you're really not fully awake yet, if that's going to be something that's going to motivate you and you're going to be interested in doing it. So again, just figuring out what motivates you can also be useful when you're planning out when to do certain things. Of course, on a practical level, you also have to figure out when it's even possible to do certain things. So obviously, you can't reserve time probably 9 o'clock at night in most cases to return phone calls unless the people that you're going to return phone calls to are available and fine if you call that late. Obviously, probably depends on your job in terms of how appropriate that may or may not be. But again, in certain things, if you have to revolve around client schedules, obviously you have to essentially be available within reason when they're available. So again, that's also where thinking about how can you be flexible in the stuff that you have to do that really the time doesn't matter. So even if it's, let's say, working out, if let's say it works better to see clients early in the morning, at lunchtime, after, before or after work hours, maybe that's the time for you to, during that middle of the day, or not middle of the day, late morning, early afternoon time, maybe you get a workout in, or you do more admin tasks and then use that time when clients are available to be seen. Or, if people have meetings, depending on what they're doing, whatever time is most convenient for sort of the actual work when it involves other people, use those times, but then pick the other times when people are not as available to do the other types of tasks that you need to get done. When it comes to planning, one size does not fit all. The idea of block planning, I think, is very versatile in that it can really encompass a lot of things for a wide variety of professions and, various other needs. Of course, all of this, you have to take this into account based on your own individual needs and figure out, does this system or some variation on this work for you? And again, you're the only one that really is going to be able to tell that for sure. But, I highly recommend trying this out. At least, if nothing else, take a couple of the general ideas, even if you don't apply it in a very structured way, and see if it helps with improving your productivity and efficiency. Even thinking about the fact, if nothing else, like let's say you have to pay bills. Rather than logging in and paying each bill whenever you get the email, could you devote, 20 minutes or a half hour, an hour maybe, once a week, and literally you pay all the bills or do all similar admin stuff that relates to the similar thing, and then essentially because you're doing more at once, it may be easier just to plow through stuff, and you in turn may actually get more done in a shorter period of time. The other final thought here is one of the best benefits of working on planning is to hopefully get more done and be more efficient and productive, but also hopefully be more relaxed. Because in a lot of cases, while I certainly can't speak for everyone, I know for myself, if I have stuff planned out and I'm following through getting it done, I'm often more relaxed. One, even during it, because I know I have a plan and I'm following through on it. But also, because you can also estimate how long things may take, it gives me some sense of what to expect. Whereas if I have absolutely no idea what to expect in terms of how long things are going to take, or what my schedule's looking like, that itself, at least to me, would certainly stress me out. I don't know about you, but yeah, in general, there's a lot of benefits of planning that go simply beyond just getting stuff done. It's also about reducing stress, improving mental health, and in general, hopefully being happier and more relaxed. Alright, so as we're concluding for today, I hope that the block planning method, or even just getting yourself thinking about planning in general, has been helpful. And that I wish you the best in terms of getting yourself more organized in order to be more efficient, improve your productivity, and hopefully be happier, more relaxed, and less stressed. Until next time, I'm Dr. Kerry Heller.